OutKick 360 is back for the Friday edition. Glad you're with us. Glad you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If you're getting this on your drive home, hope everyone had a great day headed into a big weekend. Alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski, I'm Jonathan Hutton. Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick 360. The crew is all here. Lance Lee, Jacob Swanson. David Reed is the chairman of the board. What's up, guys?
I love when I look up at the screen, by the way, and I see Jacob Swanson just randomly put things on there. One of those things randomly made Hutton laugh yesterday. I looked up today and I saw another countdown starting on the screen. I'm thinking, what are we counting down to? Well, we're counting down to excellence is what we're doing.
That hasn't happened yet.
In exactly a minute, I'm going to go ahead and guess about a minute and 38 seconds from now, based on that clock that went away, that is when the fantastic part of the show will begin. Yes. Just like the countdown to Justin Rose's implosion began last night after his great performance at the Masters.
Since we talked about the boys right out of the gate, little pat on the back. I was fixing some technical issues earlier.
Nice.
They were. I told them to make something bigger. Then that solved their problem.
I'm ready for Paul to criticize my collar because of the Jacob Swanson setup today. It's bringing it down a little bit more.
That shirt has a nice collar to it.
Your microphone is hidden perfectly.
Well, I went on the opposite side. This is all because of Jacob Swanson coming over and placing this microphone on me today, which I appreciate you noticing.
Does he have a soft touch?
Yeah.
But it also folds the collar up a little bit, so I'm waiting for Paul to criticize the collar.
Does he have a soft touch?
The way it's doing it. He does, yeah, very gentle.
I also heard some noise from Reed.
It's firm yet gentle, is how I would describe
We're in
Jacob's
a Friday
touch.
mood. So I think we're all counting on Mr. Rose to come back to the pack.
Oh, that's happened already.
Yeah, further back to the pack.
He's one stroke in the lead right now.
I'm going to admit it's partially and for very superficial and not nice reasons. I don't like his face.
Justin Rose's face bothers you?
Yeah, it bothers me. Also, I prefer other people in the tournament. So, sometimes a guy will run out to a big first-day lead and maintain it for the entire tournament.
That's not happening.
That's not happening here. I didn't expect it to happen yesterday as the round concluded. And so I want people to close on him and him to come back and for there to be a competition, and we're going to get that.
Yeah, I don't like him because he's not American. I'm not afraid to say that. I prefer my
I wouldn't like that face
if
it was American.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, that's true. A bad face, a bad face. American, Spaniard, South African, whatever it is.
Yeah, we're country neutral
face.
On bad faces.
Correct. Yeah, you can't hide from a bad face, regardless of what your border
says. What if Rory
says.
made a run, though?
I'm okay with Rory. It's not that I hate him because he's British. I just prefer if I'm rooting for someone in a major tournament.
Yeah.
In a major championship.
Irish, not British, right?
No, he's talking about Rose.
I'm talking about Rose.
That's why I clarified that, because you have someone on Twitter like, Rory's not British.
You'll start a war over there.
Right, yes.
Or over here.
Broader Great Britain is what I'm talking about. But Justin Rose specifically, I don't like Justin Rose either, not because of his face, but because he's not.
Do you like his face?
I tend to root for the Americans
in
these championships. I'm not a huge fan of his face. Got to be totally honest with that. But it's not the primary reason I'm rooting for him to lose this tournament.
Me neither. But I'm rooting for some non-American.
Here's how I describe, before you hear him speak, like you have a preconceived notion of someone when you see them, like first impression, right? To me, hearing him in an interview and how he comes across, his demeanor, his personality is a lot different than what you see walking the course.
I would agree with
that.
It kind of doesn't match.
That's what comes across to me on
And look,
Justin
I'm not
Rose.
trying to be completely superficial. I mean, there's something about him that rubs me the wrong way. The face.
You feel free to be honest. It's okay to be superficial.
The face is part of it. The face is part of it, but they're just a bunch of people I prefer.
Well, let's just go through. Without even seeing the.
Can I say one thing on Justin Rose though, as we talk about this? There's one area where I am sympathetic to Justin Rose, and that is a few years ago when he won the Masters. I remember the talk was. He cut out dairy. And in cutting out dairy, it helped his allergies. And I remember hearing this story and thinking, I have terrible allergies. I'm also convinced I'm lactose intolerant, but I don't care because I love dairy so much.
You love pizza?
I know it's going to make me sick, and I'm going to eat it because it's so good. So I was actually weighing the options of, in allergy seasons when my allergies are so bad, should I consider the Justin Rose plan? This is the only time in my life I feel like I've identified with Justin Rose.
I, too, have cut out dairy, and I feel no association with Justin Rose over our
Still none?
commonality.
How are your
that.
allergies? Are you a bad allergies guy?
You
Normal?
know, we've discussed this. I thought I had allergy problems, sinus problems, and then I was diagnosed that they were mini migraines. And I take medication for mini migraines, and they're gone. So what I thought were sinus things were actually migraine things. So mine have been dealt with.
Now back to the leaderboard, Hutton.
Yeah, well, I want to see the leaderboard because Justin Rose, as we begin the show, is a shot up, and he is the leader
Oh,
through
look
8.
at that. It's beautiful. He's come back 4 strokes through 8.
Oh, he's come back, but this is where he made his play yesterday in what was just insane. As we continue to scroll through the leaderboard, Rose up top ahead of Leishman and Matsuyama. Rose was 2 over on the 8T yesterday, and then went 9 under on the final 11 holes and finished 2 shots shy of the course record at Augusta National yesterday. And this was on a course that is firm, fast. The wind was crazy. Other players are saying that the conditions were just horrific for them. And he went on and nearly set a course record
Tore it up.
after the 8th hole. So this is where he is now, as he's fallen back to the pack a bit and started 7 under for today. He's now 3 shots.
3. I thought it was
He's
8.
now 3 shots down, but he's still the leader right now as we begin the show. So, again, we'll keep an eye on him throughout the show and see what happens there. But we're headed into moving day on Saturday, where you're going to have a jumbled leaderboard. And at least that's the goal here. Spieth has been playing well. He's at 2 under as we begin the show today. Matsuyama still at the top of the leaderboard. Patrick Reed, another past champion, is also right there within the top 10. So a lot of recognizable names to begin.
Spieth worked himself out of some terrible trouble on
He
the
said-
one hole where it's in the pine straw.
Well,
and had
beyond that, he
no
said-
look at anything, hit it into a tree, then got a fortunate lie out of that and was able to knock it out of the pine straw in the second situation.
He said after his round yesterday that he had the luckiest shot he's ever had, like in the history of him playing the sport. And it was a chip off the green that should have gone in the water, and instead it hit the flagpole.
Yeah. It had a lot of pace on it when it hit that flag stick. Yeah.
Colin Morikawa, a guy that I'm watching. I don't know who you guys have bet with FanDuel, but that's one guy that I placed a bet on in winning this.
How do we sound back there, Reed?
Reed, put the headphones out.
Thumbs
just
up.
Check the sound. Since 1997, if you're on FanDuel.com and you're checking out some of the odds, since '97, the eventual winner over the last 24 years has been in 8th place or better after the opening round. And
8th place or better. That's a good note.
and they haven't done worse than bogey on a hole, I believe, was the other thing that Brandel Chambly put out yesterday.
Paul, how did you say the South African's name?
If you put it back up here, I got a good
Bezo-
crack at it. I mispronounced it this go round. Yesterday I thought I had a
Bezoidenhout?
good.
Maybe, is that it?
Is that who you're going
Bezoidenhout?
with, Chad?
Is that your guy?
Bezoiden? No, I'm not going with that.
Bezoidenhout.
I bet on, before it started, Dustin Johnson, Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and I think that's the 3 that I bet on to win
Bezuidenhout
outright.
is mine.
Bezuidenhout. So Bezuidenhout, I told you the little anecdote with Justin Rose and his allergies. Bezuidenhout, I read this morning, accidentally ingested rat poison as a child, as a 2-year-old in the park in South Africa, was hospitalized, had nervous system issues for the rest of, and to this day he speaks with a stutter because of ingesting rat poison as a 2-year-old.
Awful stuff.
Pretty remarkable when you think about the hospitalization, nervous system being affected, but yet balance, coordination obviously not an issue because Bezuidenhout, I probably butchered his last name, but grew up to be a professional golfer.
Big B. All right,
These are the stories that get me going. Paul hates a nice human interest story. I love the human interest elements of it and the storytelling of golf.
That's a more unconventional one. So that look, I'm asking in a human interest story for it to be really different. Rat poison is really different.
You would hate if CBS cameras cut to a box of rat poison throughout the tournament the way they cut to Hep.
Yeah,
Cronin throughout the NCAA tournament.
Keep the camera on the golf.
Yeah.
I'm Cam Smith and Tony Finau pre-tournament here.
He was
Both were 2 over yesterday, so not in terrible shape. And Cam Smith's on the course now.
He was nearly on the episode of Dateline, and instead he's involved in the 2021 Masters.
Yes.
On CBS.
He goes from Chris Hansen to...
He goes from Forensic Files to Augusta National.
Yes. That is... I tell you what, though, it's funny that, people claim that he pulls off this look, right? I love when I hear that. Like Mick Fleetwood...
He pulls it off.
Tommy Fleetwood, sorry.
Tommy
Mick
Fleetwood.
Yeah. I do that all the time.
Yeah, Tommy Fleetwood pulls off the look, like it fits him. Cam Smith
He does
isn't
not
pulling
pull.
off that look if he's not a very successful pro golfer.
Listen, I don't think he's pulling it off as a very successful pro golfer. I have trouble. I'm going to be honest here. I'm bearing my heart to you. I like Cam Smith's game, and I like Cam Smith's chances. But it's hard for me to put my money down on Cam Smith and to root for Cam Smith based on that look. And here I've made golf all about looks in our first segment, which I don't want to do. But I'm being candid. Cam Smith is not pulling that off. And nobody's pulling that off. If he lived in Kentucky, I'd be destroying him.
He may.
He had a flat tire outside of Lexington, and he bought a second home.
There is a part of me, though, that wants a guy that looks like that, like in my heart.
Yeah,
like I want someone who, looks like I could go back to my hometown and hang out with.
To win the Masters.
He's not sipping on coffee or a tea with his pinky in the air.
Wearing a bow tie.
He's chugging a Foster's oil can beer.
Yes.
What that guy's doing.
There's a part of me that wants him to win at Augusta, but also that you have the chairman put the jacket on him in Butler Cabin.
And he's picking the menu.
What if they give him a haircut before he gets to go in Butler Cabin?
Yeah, real quickly. It'll be a moment before he's out for the presentation, and I cut to him in Butler Cabin with a barber in a barber's chair. There's a barber's pole, and they're quickly snipping. It's like Edward Scissorhands. It's quickly.
I love it.
My favorite part of all this is Paul judging haircuts and looks, and the hippie look is our great staff behind the scenes judging Paul for everything that he says, and Paul is yet to realize he's talking about
No, but they pull it off. They both are very handsome men.
Yes.
Can you flip to that camera? There they are.
There they are.
You see the hair.
Camera,
You see Jacob. You see some of the hair with Lance,
They
too.
wear,
They have
stay
long hair.
on it. Don't be shy.
We
Don't
sound
be
like we're
gun-shy.
like conservatives in 1962 with these long hairs back here. We just call them long hairs.
Look, they both
We're
pull
over
it
talking
off.
these long hairs are in our golf shirts.
They both pull it off.
Yeah, they do. It fits them. Like
Yes.
it does work for them. But I will say, if you put Jakob
Lance is
Swanson,
also not playing in the Masters.
if you put Jakob Swanson on the golf course, he's Cameron Smith, right? Like it's a bit of the same look and appeal.
I feel like Cameron Smith's having trouble with the facial hair.
I just, again, I go back to when someone tweets out or posts on social media, boy, Cameron Smith really pulls that look off. I just want to reply to everyone and say, if he's not playing at Augusta National right now on television, is he pulling that look off? Or is it he's at the Masters and for whatever reason it works because he's a pro golfer?
I
don't think it's kind of like our Masters shirt debate.
Yeah.
Like at the Masters, it didn't work, but in normal life, it might work. I think it's the opposite when we talk about this, right? Cam Smith works because he's a pro golfer at the Masters.
I just disagree with the
in
premise.
normal life.
I disagree with the premise. I don't think he's pulling it off in any walk of life, and I'll use these guys as evidence that people can pull it off because they both look fine to me.
Go back to the two shot of our great
You bailed
staff.
yourself out nicely, Paul. Good job. That was good.
Jakob, with his last name on his shirt, Swanson's Campground.
Is that a family business?
Is this a
It
legit?
is, yeah.
Is it really?
Where is it? Give us some
Okay, the
details.
free-
Solon Springs, Wisconsin.
Oh, it's in Wisconsin.
God's country.
Yeah.
So what do they open for 2 weeks of the year?
Campground just during the summer, but year-round for the motel portion.
Ah, the motel.
It's
Can we get a
been-
discount there?
Probably.
I only went camping one time as a kid.
Really?
Is it
Yeah.
one time too many?
Wow.
Like a legitimate camping.
Do you want to
trip.
go on the Withrow,
The men's trip?
the Withrow man annual camping trip to the Buffalo River? I want to extend this invitation now to Hutton, who's only been camping once.
I feel like it would
You
be
can
a.
stay in my tent. It's got plenty of room.
And we're going to have to take the rest of this
It's
into
got plenty
break.
of room.
It's instead of the rose, you get the Withrow.
Yeah. There's an initiation process, Hutton, that you're going to love.
Listen, I've also really only camped once, and this is not a situation when we're looking to be invited and say no. I'll just
Yeah,
hard pass.
I would never even think to invite you, Paul.
Yeah.
That would be something that you would,
I'm not
I know
camping.
you well enough to know that that's not going to be something that would interest
I'm not camping. I'm not glamping. I'm not anything.
Oh, but you're fishing. You're fishing,
You are
and
a fisherman.
you're getting Tennessee Wildlife Association gear in the mail.
Surveys
surveyed.
about what wildlife I've collected.
May
which
I
is
respond
none.
to something on Twitter, while also telling everyone to follow us on Twitter, interact with the show that way. We're on there the most. You can interact with us everywhere, but Twitter's where to find us, at OutKick360. And I think we're actually going to show you our Twitter feed right now and some of the responses that we're getting. I'm going to read one in
Okay.
response to yesterday. This is from Chris on Twitter. We talked with Dane Brugler about Isaiah Wilson and about Sam Pittman's praise of Isaiah Wilson. And so many people are responding with this with such hatred towards us for bringing this up about Sam Pittman. Chris writes, what are college coaches supposed to say? If it gets out they aren't 100% praising the player, they could lose recruits. Paul, there's a way to do this and be honest without completely bashing a player. But if a guy has a less than desirable work ethic or has been any problem in any way, you also, as a coach, don't have to go out of your way to set up interviews overly praising the guy. You can decline interview requests. You can be honest with a scout or a coach without burying the kid's chances to get drafted. There is a balance there.
I also think that there's a fundamental lack of understanding for a lot of fans like this one for the amount of off-the-record conversations that occur. You have no idea how much all three of us, and we're not scouts or anybody, know and converse with people that doesn't make it to air, that's not for public consumption. And we're just reporters, radio guys, analysts. A scout, almost 100% of the conversations scouts have are not public. We don't hear from scouts. Everything they do is behind the scenes for the pure purpose of evaluating players. None of it's public. So a college coach having a conversation with a scout, nobody ever knows any of that. All it is for the assessment of a team to be accurate and fair. And again, it doesn't have to even be negative about a guy's negative qualities. He could just say, you might want to look into X, or on the subject of X, I don't have a lot to say, which means go look into X elsewhere. But you're making it like, this tweet is making it like this is a press conference, or that the coach is standing up and saying, I don't really like this kid, everyone. This is not the same. This is off the record. And I know you think that nothing's off the record. There are a ton of conversations that go on that are not for public consumption. They're business.
Well, again,
business.
but unless Isaiah Wilson, going back to specifically Isaiah Wilson at Georgia and Sam Pittman, which was a discussion.
And the
yesterday.
discussion is, who do you trust?
Sam Pittman went out of his way to accept every media offered him to interview about Isaiah Wilson. Here in Nashville, where we're located, other places. He went on every possible show praising Isaiah Wilson, not saying a single negative thing about him. Now, there is a chance that Isaiah Wilson was an angel the entire time at Georgia and had great work ethic. I doubt that's the case. There had to be some signs this could happen.
And there were some scouting
but
reports that there
could
were
happen,
maturity
and there's a
concerns
chance
at the
he's
very
being
least.
completely honest. But my point is, you don't have to say yes to every media availability if you have reservations about the guy. And Paul, I'll take it a step further. I think it's worse to say, yeah, you might need to go looking around about this guy. You might need. Don't be mysterious about it. You can have an off-the-record conversation with a scout and say, really good player, strong, did a good job for us. Here are some things that you may need to worry
Agree.
about. Here are some things that happened here. I think it's even worse if you say, you might need to start doing your
Well,
research.
I'm merely
on this
suggesting
player.
there are all sorts of different ways that you can reveal to scouts with whom you have relationships,
Oh, yeah.
and to NFL teams with whom you want to be a credible guy, that there are things that doubts that you have, or things that need to be considered in the report that aren't positive. You can be direct, you can be indirect, whatever your method is, there are plenty of ways to express these things.
And most of
that
the
aren't
time,
public.
most of the time, if you're sold on the player, if the guy can ball, you're going to convince yourself that he's going to be different when he steps through the
Right.
door of your
We can
facility.
fix him.
Yeah.
yeah.
We have more discipline here than they did at Georgia, for example.
We have better coaches. we
Every
have better
coach
training.
convinces themselves they're
Yeah.
different.
We
And every
have
scout.
better nutrition.
Every scout's better than the scout that was there prior to him. So ultimately, you convince yourself of a guy's character concerns to that the playing ability is going to mask whatever issues are going on behind the scenes.
And look,
And then there's a huge difference when the guy barely plays.
right, and with the rookie, it's one thing because you're projecting development on
Yes,
everyone
yeah, right.
as a rookie. Then you go to somebody like Vic Beasley, it's a real sin because the guy has been in one of those, Falcons and Titans are different organizations, but they are NFL organizations, so he has had access to good coaching, to good weight program, to good nutrition, to all of that stuff. Whether it's the same as yours or different than yours, it's at a high level. And if a guy has, even if he produced the 8 sacks in his final season, there are still a lot of questions about his workload, and you still convinced yourself, hey, we can get something out of this guy for $9.5 million, and you failed there. That leads to another, to me, even higher level of questions in terms of how you scouted.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. That's where you can interact with the show. You can also join the chat on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter as we broadcast live there as well. Just follow the show at OutKick360.
One thought about our podcasts. You may have followed us podcast-wise on our old venture, and you may kind of presume that you're doing that, and you may not be doing that with this venture. So one-time deal, you've got to go and re-follow us now on Apple, on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Audible, whatever your podcast platform is. One-shot deal. You've got to go again, find us, follow, subscribe, whatever it is that platform does. You do that one time, and then you're back in the loop. But don't think that because you previously followed us, you're currently following us if you haven't done that one time.
Like, rate, and subscribe there. And you can also, again, interact with us during today's show. You can tell Paul how ridiculous he sounds based on the way that Fleetwood is looking, or maybe you agree with him. Maybe you think, you know what, there's something going on there. That
Cameron Smith.
Fleetwood,
your objection.
I think pulls it off. Smith.
Cameron Smith is who? Which guy did you
and
bet?
Smith, I bet. So I
you
bet
bet Smith.
despite the fact that I have trouble with his look. That's showing you how I overcome my irrational feelings.
If Paul can change, you can change, everyone can change.
And I'm admitting these are
The words of
irrational
Rocky
feelings,
IV.
but we have to be vulnerable here on this show, and I'm being vulnerable. I have irrational feelings about Cameron Smith, yet I think he's going to win the tournament, or could. And I hope he does. For the sake of my bank account, I hope he does.
Paul's buying lunch, he does. FanDuel.com/OK360 is where you can place your bet for the greatest tournament in golf. That's FanDuel.com/OK360. Some great odds available for you today going into the weekend there for all sports, but specifically with everything going on today at Augusta. We'll continue to update you there, give more thoughts on the headlines of the day next, right here on the OutKick Network. Chad, on display behind you, the birth of Catfish Jake and the instrument of crime. Jacob Waddell, huge fan of the show and a great friend of ours, threw a catfish on the ice in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, the Nashville Predators at the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he was charged with disrupting the peace and charged with using and possessing an instrument of crime, which just happened to be a catfish that he threw on the ice. And here is the court summons from the Honorable Jeffrey A. Manning. We display it proudly.
The Honorable Jeffrey A. Manning, the Honorable Jacob Waddell, the reason that we went to Augusta National for the first time, the reason that we had a sticker of our previous show on the catfish that hit the ice. Now the one thing we need to do, Hutton, is just get this man an OutKick 360 sticker so he can place it on a fish of some sort and throw it on the ice of a big NHL event.
Our next big goal is to have one of the catfish that's on display at Bridgestone Arena named after Jake.
Something new from the shelf. This is an invitation to Jerry Jones's Hall of Fame party just outside Canton, Ohio. I got it because I'm on the selection committee. It was +1, but there are 3 of us. Who perturbed me last at the time? Hutton got the golden ticket. Literally golden. There's Jerry on the back in gold. They had golden wrapped hamburgers at the end of this event where we watched Justin Timberlake performed not from far away. We drank with Derek Dooley, and we toasted with Amy Adams Strunk. Later on, we met Chad in Cleveland.
The 360 Masters is back. Hey, it's Hutton. Hope you'll join us on June 10th for a one-of-a-kind event with OutKick 360, other great writers and producers from OutKick, including David Reed, who will throw his back out again for the 2nd annual event. Thursday, June 10th, you can sign up on Eventbrite or just follow us on Twitter at OutKick 360. 100% of the proceeds will go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Tennessee. Hope you'll join us for a great event. Get your team today and join us at Topgolf Nashville for the 360 Masters. OutKick 360 is back. Coming up in 30 minutes, we will have the Tennessee Power Hour, and it is Friday, which means it's the Volquest Power Hour. Brent Hubbs and Austin Price of Volquest.com, the very latest from the Hill, from Rocky Top, straight ahead in 30 minutes right here on OutKick 360. Coming up on Thursday, June 10th, the 360 Masters, all to benefit the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. It's going to be at Topgolf Nashville. You can grab your bay today. just check us out on Twitter, on social media, at OutKick360 on the Facebook page. Click the link for Eventbrite. It takes you to the page where you can purchase your bay today.
I just texted some friends and said, they're
Get on
going.
it.
They're going. If they're talking about it, I don't know if they've pulled the trigger yet, but get going.
We're down to 7 bays, which is huge. We started with 18.
That's awesome.
And we have that through yesterday's sales, but also we had a couple of people that bought 2 bays, and some purchased a bay for their office, and then they one guy had a bay for his office, and then a bay for his friends. And in the request section it said, "Please separate us."
I love it.
That's great. I was going to say, what a mixing of this guy must love his job. I was ready to say, what a mixing his friends and his work.
I know.
No, please separate us. We want
Please-
1 and
please
18.
One on one end, one on the other. Please. Opposite sides.
No problem. That can be done. We can accommodate. The prices, everything's included with the price of the bay. But after everyone gets the drink tickets. After those, after you've gone through those, maybe after a couple of hours, the prices will be much like that at Augusta National. One of the great things about the Masters is being able to go with $20 in your pocket and drink and eat all day long with the Masters selections. Chad, I think you tried one of everything whenever we were there together.
Yeah, I don't know how you wouldn't. Honestly, I don't understand people who go to the Masters and don't try one of everything, because you can do it and not spend much money at all if you try one of everything. I'm a fan of the egg salad sandwich.
Yeah?
So much so that my wife Angie has made egg salad for this week. I'm eating egg salad sandwiches at home.
It's beautiful.
On white bread in honor of the Masters.
On white bread.
Yes, got to be on white
Get
bread.
the carbs up.
And it's a beautiful menu. Look at
So-
those prices.
The other thing, when we were there together for a practice round, and this was 17, because we were drinking out of the cups last night
Yeah.
Oh.
in my house, just as a coincidence, so I spotted the year. And when we came back raving about the ease of getting stuff. I mean, you can walk, you're walking from one hole to another, or walking along the ropes, and you slide into one of these things, and you don't stop, you don't break stride to grab a sandwich, a beer,
Everything's grab and go.
and something, and swipe your card, and you've lost no time. And I mean, I want to say we spurred it. We didn't, but this grab and go has become popular at places like Bridgestone Arena and Nissan Stadium here in Nashville, and the venues where you are, which is way overdue. Way overdue. And that's
Well,
still
you
a
almost
little
feel
bit
like
slow
you're
at the
slowing
cash
up the
register.
line if you're not going fast.
Yes.
If you're not
You're
grabbing
doing a
things as quick as
disservice to
possible,
your
because
fellow patrons.
Everything is so fast. It's
They also
great.
make it fast.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have a single register or checkout lane that's not open.
They're waving you to them. They're super
Far too
efficient.
often nowadays, there are 18 checkout lines and 2 of them are available for you.
Correct.
What's the purpose of that?
It's the best customer service at a venue in sports that I've been to, and I've been to lots and lots of venues. And it should be the model for absolutely everything, and not just in sports and entertainment. At a theater, at anything you could think of. This is how it should work.
I agree.
It's terrific. I have nothing else to add.
I'm going to
It's
drop
great.
by your house
By the way, the
and see if
chicken
Angie
sandwich-
could run egg salad sandwiches.
I think the chicken sandwich in the club at Augusta is highly underrated.
I
Everyone
agree.
goes for the egg salad and the pimento cheese. Give me the club and the chicken sandwich and like 4 times a day.
I'm with you. I'm not a pimento cheese or egg salad guy, though I think I
it's
had
good.
them because I wanted everything.
Exactly. It's good, but it's something that I would just have normally, and I feel like I'm never going to order a pimento cheese sandwich or egg salad sandwich because it's rarely on a menu anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get it. So I feel like it's the Masters if I'm having those things. Something I might make at home, but I'm not going to order that on the menu. I could order a club or a chicken sandwich anywhere. So when
What
I'm at
was
the
the other
Masters,
thing?
I go pimento or egg
Well,
salad.
what was the
But
other
it's all
thing that
good.
we were so struck by is the branding. The branding is the Masters.
Yeah.
Light beer, regular beer, dark beer, maybe. No names on
It
the
was
beer.
import, domestic.
Import,
I
domestic,
think
or
that
light.
was it. Those are the 2 options.
Light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
they are.
Yeah, right?
So
no,
import and domestic.
but there's no Miller,
An American
Bud,
draft. American draft beer.
you know,
But they will tell you if you ask.
Right. So
if you
that
ask
you know.
someone there what it is, they'll tell you what's in it, but it's not going to be on the cup anywhere.
Right. But
the import was
signage-wise,
Heineken.
yeah.
What was the domestic?
I
Do we
think it
remember?
was Miller.
Miller.
But I'm not
right.
positive. But the signage and the sponsor, they don't care about that stuff. Whereas everything else in American sports is all about, I got to get that sponsorship money and that relationship, and I'm making money off that. Augusta doesn't care about those things that make them money. Augusta is money.
And here is where I think a lot of people say, 300,000 people say they were at the Music City Miracle, right? When the stadium holds 70. There are going to be a ton of people that say, I attended the Masters in 2021 where capacity was at half of what it normally is. And here's what made it so great. They could go anywhere they want. The top leader, top the leaderboard on Sunday, you are guaranteed a spot at the tee box if you want one, based on the crowds, right? The 18th green.
There's no way to control it.
Chad was there
right?
whenever Tiger walked off the 18 green in 2019 and hugged the sun. But he heard the roar. He couldn't see it because you had 100 people deep. This year, there's going to be a prime location for everyone.
It's 50 people deep, so right?
I mean, it would be incredible to experience.
Unbelievable.
With a select amount of people like that.
And what do
Just
we
awesome.
think those tickets went for? They were going for more than double.
I'm sure very expensive. But it was, in 2019, what I remember is the chant of Tiger walking off that 18th green, and you could hear everyone around you chanting Tiger, and you could hear the wave of noise as he walked through that line of people. He embraced his son, and you could, I'm walking out of the facility, and I'm walking towards the entrance or the exit, and you could hear people cheering as Tiger got closer. So it was almost like a wave, which I hate the wave, but the actual wave you see at a game or here, you could see that and hear it with the crowd as Tiger walked off the course, which was pretty cool.
Did you guys stay for the presentation and everything? Or
No, we took off. We had to get back. We were driving back home that evening, so we left before all of that. Didn't stay for that part. And I would have been 50 people deep for that also.
Right.
So
I'm just curious your perception of how many people like linger for the last drop, and how many people
everyone
get out of
was
Dodge
headed
like
out.
you did.
It seemed like
Yeah.
everybody was leaving with Tiger because they go into Butler Cabin too for the green jacket presentation.
Then come back
which
out.
no one's in there for that. So
But then they come back out. Yeah. But it's a Sunday night. People are looking to get on the move too, and it's I imagine massive scene getting out of there.
Coming up, we will continue to monitor the leaderboard at Augusta. The latest with Deshaun Watson with his attorney, Rusty Hardin, and what he's now demanding from Busby, the attorney for the 22 civil lawsuit and the accusations being made there by the 22 individuals. The very latest on that straight ahead on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 rolls on with Chad Withrow and Paul Koharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. We highly recommend checking out FanDuel.com, and when you do, go to /OK360. You can place some great bets, parlays for the weekend. Of course, the greatest tournament in golf happening right now. Great odds there. FanDuel.com /OK360. Trevor Bauer in the headlines. There are teams, I believe the A's was who they were playing. They're investigating the baseballs with Trevor Bauer, which is intriguing. They've sent the baseballs to MLB headquarters for further analysis, which, if you don't catch a pitcher in the act, it's going to be extremely difficult to punish him after the fact. But they're saying there are like notches in the baseball and other things. So something to watch, and it makes for great YouTube content for Trevor Bauer on his next vlog.
Yeah, you love the Trevor Bauer.
Love
the vlog is a video log that he does. Paul, you tweeted something that I saw getting a lot of play yesterday also.
What a
Michael
joke.
Conforto for the Mets blatantly sticking his arm out on a pitch that was almost in the strike zone.
It was a strike.
It was going to be a strike.
It was a strike.
And they ended the game on that after review.
And then what they can review is that it was a hit by pitch. But they can't review that it was a strike.
Well, it doesn't matter, though, if it's a strike, if he were hit by the pitch.
It does, because you're not allowed to lean into a strike. The strike overrules the hit by a pitch. And so it's illegal what he did. If it's a strike, he should be called out on the strike, and the hit by a pitch is irrelevant. This is little known, really. But you're not allowed to lean into a strike and get hit by a pitch to get
But
a
if you're
base.
just standing over the plate, you're not leaning in, that's just your stance, and you get hit by a pitch.
Well, your
it's a strike.
stance isn't allowed to take you into the strike zone to get hit by a pitch. The pitcher has a right to throw a strike.
It was completely illegal what he did. I mean, there's no
Well,
way.
he definitely moves his arm in.
Well, and the umpires, I mean, again,
And the umpire said he was wrong after the fact.
There's no world where even if you can't like hover over the strike zone in your batting stance and not move and get hit by a strike.
You can only get hit by a pitch that's a ball.
Yeah.
And so this call is wrong, and it ends the game. And it ends the game and wins the game because it drives in the run, right? It's a hit by a pitch that drives in the winning run.
It was
on
a
bases
walk-off
loaded
hit by
situation.
pitch.
Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous that this call is called incorrectly. And then the umpire says he got it wrong. So my thing is, I don't know at what point he realized he got it wrong, but if he realizes it in short order, which sometimes guys do, you call a guy out at first base and you quickly know you got it wrong. I'm ready for an era where you could say, I punched that guy out and I quickly realized he's safe and I'm changing it. I called that guy hit by a pitch and I quickly realized it's a strike. If I realize it in real time, I should be able to change it. I'm in favor of getting it right. And so if he realizes it when he goes back into the clubhouse and looks at it, that's one thing. But if he realizes it when he's walking to the replay, or if the replay has to allow for him to correct that in the moment in the name of getting it right and allowing the correct team to win or play on in the game. I just don't understand the constriction.
I'm all for consequences when it comes to things like this, but we need to get past just suspending the umpiring crew because they screwed something up. There needs to be consequences for the team that got jobbed. How many more times will the Marlins and Mets play each other this year? You're telling me that you can't, next time they play,
pick it up,
start a game in the bottom of the ninth with the bases loaded, would that count? And put the same pitcher and same batter up and then see what happens?
I think there were 2 outs.
And that would have been strike 3?
Yeah.
I mean, then it's a strike. Game over.
Yeah,
if
then
there are
or
2
just
outs
exactly
and there were 2 strikes.
just
Well,
reverse
I think it's tied, and you can.
Yeah, you go to the next inning.
Here's the other thing I
point.
thought of. There will be justice. It may not be in a win column,
Right.
but the Miami Marlins are known for vigilante justice.
Oh, they are.
There will be hell to pay for the New York Mets the next time they play. They're not beneath making sure that a player is hit by a pitch.
You should be able to correct an obvious error at a crucial moment, a game-deciding moment. I don't understand why.
If they're not going to change, if they're not going to change it after Galarraga was screwed out of the perfect game by Jim Joyce, they're never going to change it.
Well, at that point, there wasn't the technology available to change it. Now at least we've advanced to where there is in-game technology, I'm saying. And the thing is, I also read, and I believe this to be true, protests are no longer a thing in baseball. So I don't think the
You can't play a
Marlins
game under
can
protest?
officially protest that game and have the commissioner at least force him to consider what you're saying, Chad, or the George Brett game, where you come back to a terrible decision and say, all right, we're going to play this out from that moment, which is very rare, but at least used to be in the envelope of possibility. I don't think that's in the envelope of possibility anymore.
I just think the only real justice is the Mets lose that game. I don't think there's any level of justice that matters. They can throw. I mean, the Marlins can come and throw at Conforto in the next game. But here's what's going to happen: the umpiring crew, even though that umpire crew admitted a mistake, Major League Baseball knows they're wrong to award the Mets that win with what happened. They're going to come out and warn both benches to start the game. So the Marlins are going to be forced to either start someone they don't want to,
and they will,
and let them go in there and throw at them. But then once that happens, then you get into a bean war unless the Mets just decide, you know what, we got the benefit of the doubt on that game, we'll just take it. Conforto's going to get hit, and then we'll stop. But what if it goes high? Then the Mets are going to feel like they need it's never ending when we have to get to a point in sports where the right thing needs to happen, which is you overturn the outcome of the game.
What's the percentage of the population, even the old school baseball population, that still will say, well, that's baseball, the human. And I still believe in some of it, like the human. I think the reviews for stolen bases are overdone. I think, the fact that every call at second base on a steal now is subject to a frame-by-frame review and the umpire doesn't make the call, to me, that's a little bit much, right? It slows the game down. And it's not really. I'm okay with a human umpire making a call on a steal at second base. So am I old school there, or am I just I don't think you need to do it? I know, but I don't know that it needs to be done on every single thing. So I'm not all the way computerize everything. I don't know if I need computerized balls and strikes where I am on that. But
that's the only way you definitively call it a strike.
Yeah, and really that's all we're talking about now with baseball.
All the umpire has to say is, "I'm sorry, I got it wrong, but I was going to call it a ball, so it's a hit by pitch."
Well, that's why this is so confusing to me.
But it was clearly not a ball.
But
it's not a strike unless the umpire calls it a strike. Period.
But he superseded making a ball or strike call.
This is where common sense should reign supreme. I don't care what the hell you can look at in a review. If you see that review, the umps all know it. Hey, guys, that's a strike, and he's clearly leaning his arm out.
Break the rule.
To get hit. Yes.
Break the rule. Come back.
Do what's right. There should not be.
And take the consequence of that.
I am for more vague rules when it comes to a review.
Be a maverick coming back from that review.
Again, if somebody gets hit, everything can be reviewed. This is like if you review a play in football. Well, guess what? Everything now is up for grabs on that play. So I'm for that. I don't think you should not put yourself into this box of you can only review this part of a guy getting hit by a pitch. That shouldn't be a thing. If you're going to go review it to see if he got hit, well, I can also see if he leaned his arm out. I can see if it was a strike. Let's get this thing right. If we're going to go under the camera and look at it and look at a monitor, let's get it right.
I agree.
And I'm with you on the balls and strikes. It's a human element part of it. I'm fine with it being that way. Good example is Ronald Acuna was called out on a terrible called third strike that was a ball 4. That was a terrible call.
That's baseball.
It ended up costing the Braves a chance in the 19th to win the game. That's baseball. When someone comes back and says, that's baseball. But if you get thrown out at second or at home, well, that's reviewed. You can go now go and look at that and get it right upon review, which I'm fine with that also.
Let me give you a scenario, Hut. Let me give you both a scenario.
Yeah.
All right, let's take what happened and the reaction Major League Baseball and this umpire are getting. And let's say this. Let's say they go to look at it, and we know what the purview of what he's allowed to review is. Which I agree, Chad, is unreasonable. But let's stick with the rule. They're allowed to go and review, was he hit by the pitch? So that's all they're allowed to confirm under the envelope of the rule, which I think we all agree is ridiculous. Take the reaction to what happened as it happened. Let's compare it to this. He goes and looks at it, and he comes back, and he's a maverick. And he breaks with what he's allowed to review, and he comes back and he calls the guy out based on everything that we know, the full information. So he breaks with the rule of what's allowed to be reviewed in replay. He comes back and he calls him out because he knows it was a strike and that he messed up the call after he sees it. What plays out from there now? Is he bad? The public, I think, likes it, right? We like that he got the call right. How much trouble is he in with Major League Baseball for going against it?
He'll never be behind the plate again.
Really? He's just done?
You can't.
He went against the rules of baseball.
You can't be a Maverick that way. That's why I'm saying rewrite the rule that you can. If someone's hit by a pitch and it's contested, you can look at every aspect of it and decide what happened.
I'd love to see somebody do that, and in his post-game thing, when he ultimately talks to somebody, say, ultimately, I was wrong. I saw a situation where I could right it, and so I corrected it.
Well, but he was wrong to award him the base by not seeing it in live play, right? There's where he's wrong, but then you're compounding being wrong by circumventing the rule that's there by looking at something you're not supposed to look at in review. So it's a lose-lose in that scenario. I just think, again, they can make it easy by saying, if something's up for review, you can look at every part of it. And this applies to everything. Let's say a guy, they're contesting a play at first base, close play, safe or out. What if the guy stepped out of the batter's box to hit it? Everything is up for it on that play. Once you go back and look at it, every part of it is up for debate. If you're going to open up the monitor for this, make sure everything's open for debate.
Well, if we spin that to football, which is much more complicated, are you worried then about a hold that occurred on the other side of the line of scrimmage that had no bearing on the play? That's the fear in football in terms of expanding it.
I just think that in baseball it's so much
simpler.
It's so much easier. They could just make it a lot easier on themselves to right a wrong as opposed to what they did yesterday, allowing a wrong to be upheld because of some arbitrary rule that on a hit by pitch you can only look to see if it hit the batter or not and not look at every part of it.
Yeah, what's the rationale for that decision in the first place?
Attorney Tony Busby, who's representing the 22 accusers in the civil cases against Deshaun Watson in Houston, he says that 9 of the 12 women he's representing in today's second hearing have voluntarily agreed to release their names in new filings. Busby says that the women felt emboldened by Ashley Solis, who held the presser and went out publicly and put her name and face with the accusation earlier this week. This in response to Russie Hardin saying that they don't want just Jane Doe's listed in a civil case against his client. He needs to be able to do something other than go to the media trying to figure out who these people are that are filing lawsuits against his client.
But it's also in response to the first hearing, no, at which a judge said the woman involved in that hearing had to put her name on it. They had to refile it with her putting her name on it.
At Hardin's request.
They wouldn't go forward with it.
Yes, at Hardin's request and all of this.
That's what the hearing was, right? Hardin was asking, and the judge, granted Hardin's request that, yes, a name had to be put on it. So these other women are proactively falling in line with that ruling before they're potentially asked to do the same thing.
I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable. We talked about all sides of this. To me, it is not unreasonable that if you were going to seek civil damages for anything, you should have to put your name on it. I mean, this is not me not believing the women that have accused this because it's way too consistent with all 22 of them at this point for something not to be up with Deshaun Watson. But I also think a criminal complaint and a civil complaint are two different things. If you were seeking damages for something and you did not take this to authorities at the time, then I think it's perfectly reasonable for Hardin to request and the state to request or the civil judge to request that they attach names to this.
And this is
it's
why,
different when it's a criminal complaint and you're protecting the victim.
This is why, and listen, these women can go forward with this any way they want based on what is alleged to have happened to them, which is hard not to believe based on the fact that 22 separate women have similar stories, right? Mm-hmm. But I look forward to having a better understanding of why it hasn't gone the more traditional route of criminal first, civil second. And in a criminal case, you would have an easier time of not putting your name on it, which is generally my understanding from everything I've read and worked to understand, a better scenario for a victim who's trying to recover from something that was traumatic is to not have to live it out publicly with people knowing who you are, potentially having jerks come at you knowing your name. Ashley Solis, I think, has already faced some of that, which is a completely unfortunate element of the whole deal, right?
Coming up, the Volquest Power Hour. Just like that. Hour 1 in the books.
Christmas trees and chocolate Easter bunnies for everyone.
Austin Price and Brent Hubbs from Volquest.com. The very latest on the Tennessee Volunteers with the two best who cover the athletic programs on Rocky Top. That's next on OutKick 360. It is OutKick 360. Glad you're with us for the Tennessee Power Hour alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. You can follow the show at OutKick 360 on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram as well. We hope you'll like and subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcasts. And you can do that wherever you find your podcast as well. It is time for the Volquest Power Hour. It is the Friday edition of the show, which means Austin Price and Brent Hubbs from Volquest.com join us. Guys, hope you're doing well.
Doing great, guys. How are you?
We are
Very
excellent. Happy Masters Friday to you, Austin.
Let's just set the tone, boys. Let's set the tone.
There we go.
Come on, Hutton, give us your best Jim Nance.
I'm already calm right now, just hearing that.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the 83rd edition of the Volquest Hour.
Jim Nance would never allow facial hair to look like this, though. That's overrun Hutton's face. That would
Yes.
never happen with Nance.
Hey, Hutton, what's the name of my my bay at the OutKick 360 Masters? Can you remember?
I can't. I can only remember Flowering Crabapple and Nandina.
No. Weeping Cherry. Weeping Cherry.
That's it.
Weeping
Sorry.
Cherry.
Yes, Weeping Cherry. Austin Price will have the Volquest Bay at Weeping Cherry for the OutKick
So sad.
360
Sounds
Masters. That's coming up on June 10th.
So, guys, I keep wanting to start with football with you, with spring football going on, but there's always basketball news, I feel like, with this Tennessee program. Brent, I want to start with you on this one. The announcement today, Corey Walker transferring, E.J. Anasicki transferring, Yves Pons going pro. Tennessee's got some open spots to fill with some transfers. So what is the latest, and what type of movement do you expect with that roster moving forward?
Well, let me first say the news of the day is not a surprise, I don't think, to anybody. I think when the fact that Tennessee was looking for any kind of help they could find in the post this past season, and Corey Walker could never find a single minute on the floor, you just knew that wasn't going to work. And then Anasicki went from playing in December to not playing at all in the month of February. You knew that those things just that wasn't going in the right direction. So no shock that those guys are leaving. I think the question now is, what kind of work can they get done in the transfer portal? And Walker Kessler is the biggest name out there that Tennessee's involved with. He's transferring from North Carolina. Because of the Powell kid that Tennessee got to transfer with, they're good friends. That may give Tennessee a chance. I think Kentucky's certainly at the top. Gonzaga's been there. I think Gonzaga's too far away ultimately. So I think Kentucky's heavily involved, and they may be the school to ultimately beat. Then we'll see. There's a kid at Furman that Tennessee's kind of messing around with, but he's supposed to do something Sunday. It does not feel like that's going to be Tennessee. And then I think there's going to be some more kids enter the portal around the country, and Tennessee will be involved there. They'll continue to look in the international pool to see what's available out there, and look at anybody potentially reclassifying as well. So Rick Barnes has talked about it all year long. The name of the game with the transfer portal now is roster management. We'll see how he manages this, because he's got a heavy turnover.
What is the latest with John Fulkerson on a decision? Has a decision been made? Will there be an announcement on decision? What do you think about the chance of him coming back?
Well, a decision, to my understanding, has not been made. No final decision there. I do think whenever he makes that decision, they will announce something. I know that he did an interview for a news outlet in the Tri-Cities about Des Oliver getting the ETSU job, and he politely said, "Hey, don't ask me about my future. Don't ask me what I'm going to do." I don't think he's come to a final decision yet, although it feels like there's been a little more momentum about him returning than there once was. But I think he is very mindful of not making an emotional decision, and that's why he's trying to get away from it as much as he can to settle in and make a final decision. I think that decision will come in the next month. But I don't think he wants to rush anything, because he doesn't want to make any kind of emotional decision. Bottom line with him, he's just got to decide if he wants to play college basketball again, or if he's ready to move on in life. I don't think he's going to go overseas and play. I don't think the NBA is going to come calling. So it's at the point of, do you want to play another year, or do you want to move on and try to get a coaching career going? What's the next year of your life? What do you want it to be like? And I think that's what John's trying to decide right now.
The idea, though, of Fulkerson coming back has to be extremely intriguing for Rick Barnes, right? Like, they need him right now as you look at the size and then the leadership qualities that he would bring down low. I'm not saying he's much more than a really strong role player, but they could use that right now, Brent.
Well, they obviously could, and I mean, here's a guy that if he's right, if he's healthy, I think he could get back to more of what we saw out of him 2 years ago, as opposed to what they saw out of him this year. And when you look at where they're at in the post, yeah, I mean, absolutely, he becomes more important by the day. Even though the news today is not surprising, still, when you look at that roster depletion, you know, if you can bring back an experienced big man, absolutely, it's important. And I know that Rick Barnes would love to have him back. So we'll see what he elects to do. Again, I just think he wants to take his time and make sure he's not making an emotional decision, that he's making one based on all the facts of how he wants to go. Because this is a finale decision for him. It's kind of basketball's over, next phase of life, or, hey, we're going to go do the college thing one more year.
I'll say this, guys. To me, it's interesting, from the standpoint of you almost are getting a second. He's getting a second last go around. So, like, what if you played your senior year of high school? It went okay, didn't end the way you maybe wanted it to, but you got a chance to have a redo. That's the equivalent of this. And so, like, I think when he left the floor at Thompson Bowling, he was saying goodbye. And then when it ended the way it ended at the SEC tournament, I think it gave him pause. And that's why he is taking his time, as Brent said, because I think he's torn. Part of him likes the way he exited TBA with the big win on senior day, but part of him doesn't like that he didn't get to finish on his own 2 feet.
He's Austin Price. We're also hearing from Brent Hubbs, the Volquest Power Hour here on OutKick 360. Austin, let's transition to football, and I'll get both to comment here on this after the first scrimmage that took place at Tennessee this past week for Coach Heupel. Behind closed doors, if they're discussing, okay, here's what we have. Austin, let's start with you. What do you think they're actually saying in broad terms? What are they saying they have versus what they hope they can do with this group?
Well, I think they have flashes of talent. Wide receiver, I think the offensive staff feels better about that position than they did maybe going into spring practice, because they've been able to see what Jimmy Callaway can do. They've been able to see flashes from Jimmy Holiday enough to where he's drawing praise behind the scenes, and he's limited because he has some off-season shoulder cleanup. They obviously like what Bayless Jones brings. Cedric Tillman had a nice scrimmage. A guy like Walker Merrill made some plays yesterday in the scrimmage, Brent. And then, I think they're still trying to figure out what they got at quarterback. They have some really solid, pieces, but, like, do they have the guy? And I think that's the one thing they're trying to figure out right now, Brent, is do we have enough? Do we go alone, or do we have to go and maybe potentially bring somebody else in post-spring?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that they feel like they've got some weapons, some things they can do. I think this offensive line's probably played a little better than they would anticipate. Jabari Small's been really good. Now, we're talking some praises on the offense, and there's huge question marks defensively about this team. I think for this team to be a bowl team, to win 6-7 games, they're going to have to outscore some people, because I just don't know how much they're going to be able to line up and stop people. And it's not a panic button quote, but Willie Martinez this week, when asked about, kind of who are you, what's your identity, we're trying to figure it out on defense. We got a bunch of stuff in. We're multiple. We're not really sure what we can do well and what we can't do well on defense yet. And look, this is going to be a much more talented team on offense than they are on defense. So you better hope that the news about this team throughout the spring, Paul, is that offensively it's clicking. Because if the defense starts winning, to me that says bad things, because that means the offense is struggling more than the defense is making great strides.
Picking up on some of this, it's early, obviously, but I'm wondering what each of you think in terms of Heupel's offense and the pace of that offense, and what that will mean to the defense practice-wise, and what dividends that might pay for a defense that's not stocked like you're talking about, but for the strains it might put on that defense, particularly through camp.
Well, I think that they're going to see such a pace in spring ball and then fall camp that they're going to be, feeling like that, things got set in slow motion when they get to the regular year. I mean, I know yesterday when they scrimmaged, the offensive line performed pretty well, especially the back part of the scrimmage. But early on, they had several false starts just based off the speed that the offense is trying to go and knowing, rhythm and pacing, all that. So you can only imagine, Paul, what that defense is going to see, every practice from here all the way till September. And then, when they get to a game and schools aren't going that fast, one would think that it's going to be a benefit. Now, does it mean they're able to make more plays? I don't know. I think ultimately, and to piggyback what Brent just said, they're going to allow a bunch of yards. They've got to be really good in the red zone. They've got to have good red zone defense. Bend, don't break. Your teams are going to score on you, but you've got to be able to force them into some field goals to keep the scoring at a minimum.
So, guys, Josh Heupel has not been dealt a friendly hand when it comes to disciplinary issues on this team. You've got the incident in the dorm, and now you've got Aaron Beasley allegedly torturing a cat. What is the latest with these stories? Do you expect resolution on any of this anytime soon? And what do you think Josh Heupel is sitting around thinking with this? Brent, we'll start with you on this answer. What is the latest with all these stories?
Well, I think the first thing Josh Heupel's thinking is, what the crap have I got into here? I mean, really? I mean, we're 3-7, and this is what we're doing? I mean, come on. It's not like it's not like some All-Americans are getting in trouble here. I mean, it's just a head scratcher. And then you look at three of the guys who are involved in the dorm room situation. They were all midterm enrollees. They just got on campus. As for those guys who were involved in the incident in the dorm room with the theft and that thing, I expect a resolution on that sooner rather than later. I think some of those guys, maybe not all of them, but I think some of those guys may be back on the practice field as early as some point next week. Caden Salter's situation, his case was completely dropped from a legal standpoint. He's been before student conduct. I think there's a resolution in place with student conduct that's waiting on final signatures. And then the final step for him is whatever punishment Josh Heupel is going to deal out for him. And so I think that incident is going to get resolved for those guys probably sooner. The Aaron Beasley situation, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. Josh Heupel was asked about it yesterday. And Austin, I don't want to say he ran from that one, but he was not like, hey, we support our guy. With the other ones, he was like, hey, we back our guys on everything. This one yesterday about Aaron Beasley was very much, we're going to wait and see what the authorities come back and tell us on this one and get the full details of the case. We'll address it after that fact. And he didn't hitch his wagon to Aaron Beasley yesterday at all, in my opinion, Austin.
Nor would I, because there have been plenty of kids across college football, whether it be Tennessee or any other school, that have gotten in trouble for drugs, alcohol, getting into fights. But the torturing of a cat or alleged, and that's what it is right now. Until proven guilty, he's innocent. So alleged torturing of an animal, that's a new one. And so I would be more careful with that one than just your every run-of-the-mill kind of dust up in the dorm room.
Austin, what does it do? And I'm transitioning to the football end of this now. What's it do to the depth at the linebacker position? Who's benefiting from the reps since Beasley's been suspended?
I mean, in my mind, Aaron Beasley hadn't really got on the field since he's been here, so it's not like that this is some kind of huge loss. It's just another body. Like, you just keep losing bodies. You lost Henry and Forrest Crouch. Those are two bodies. Jeremy Banks is doing a few things in spring, but very limited after off-season surgery. Roman Harrison, limited. That's more bodies. Now Beasley's gone. They're just down to Quasi Garland, Morvin Joseph, Will Albright. They're just not very good at the linebacker position. They're not really deep. Now, when you get Roman Harrison back and you get Jeremy Banks back, and Garland continues to improve, Joseph continues to improve, how does that change things for Tennessee? I think that helps them immensely. Now, does that mean they're going to be great at linebacker? I think that Brian Jean-Mary or Jean-Marie, however you want to say it, is tasked with a really, really tough hand that he's been dealt. So, I think the linebacker position is something that Tennessee's going to be a work in progress all year.
Listen, the bottom line is, yes, Aaron Beasley hadn't played a lot, but Aaron Beasley was going to be he's a starter this spring because of numbers. So he's losing a huge opportunity. with him being out, their deep snapper started at linebacker.
Always good.
Like a high
Always
school
good.
team.
I mean, the last time he played linebacker in high school.
For
But
Greenville.
he came to Tennessee to be a deep snapper, and yesterday he was a starting inside linebacker.
How'd he look?
Okay, I mean he's a deep snapper playing inside linebacker. I wasn't at the scrimmage, but I mean, listen, I'm not knocking the kid. It's obviously a great opportunity for him, but I don't think anybody's sitting there going, yeah, we want to go to Florida. Or we want to line up against Florida with our deep snapper at inside linebacker. I mean, so point being, to Austin's point, they got to get some guys healthy. I still contend quarterback in the transfer portal if they don't like what they have. If they come out of spring and go, you know what, we can't get bowl eligible with what we have here in this offense. Still looking at a potential quarterback transfer, another one, even though they took the hooker. And then I think you have to try to find a linebacker transfer just for bodies. That's my opinion.
Maybe more than one, it sounds like, huh?
Well, you got to keep a bunch of people healthy. I mean, you can't have a bunch of injuries there for sure, because even though Aaron Beasley has not played, he is at least a linebacker.
Yeah, scholarship linebacker.
And Lenneth Whitehead is a running back that you say, hey, maybe you move him to linebacker. But here's a guy who's been dealing with a foot injury since he was in high school, and he's not going through spring either right now because of the foot. So they can't even move him over there to take a look right now.
Running back certainly better than long snapper at linebacker.
You know, yeah, guys, just my initial reaction to this story, it's a terrible accusation, but just in totality, and Brent, let's start with you and your reaction to this take. Can things not just feel normal with this football program ever? Like
No.
everything, every time they make a move to where you finally feel like, okay, take a deep breath, bite the bullet here, so to speak, hit the reset button, let's start building again. There's always these crazy stories or accusations or things off the field that distract us from the actual program and the product. It is just weird how they can't get out of a rut.
Well, and I've said this, and this has kind of been my line to people. Nobody's had more self-inflicted wounds in a college football program the last decade than Tennessee has. Now, is that all the coach's fault? No. I mean, Josh Heupel had nothing to do with Aaron Beasley, but they're in the headlines with self-inflicted wounds. Now you got the NCAA stuff hanging over your head. Botched coaches searches. Okay, not putting John Gruden rumors to bed, so allowing that to fester into something else, right? Lane Kiffin leaves, and then you rush and make a bad decision there. There's just so many things that has been avoidable that Tennessee's should have been able to avoid, that they can't get out of their own way because it's self-inflicted stuff, and it's 10 years of it. So to answer your question, I don't know when it's going to end. And I'm not trying to be mean, but that's just the way it feels.
What do you think when you hear that, Austin?
I think he's right. It's one thing after another. Again, you've got what happened there with the 4 players or 5 players, however many number you want to go. Because James Robinson's never been really linked to it, but at the same time, he's not out there and for a similar reason. So you've got that happens, and you're like, man, 3 of these kids are midterm enrollees. They should be finishing up their final semester of high school. Instead, they're moved off campus, not a part of the program because they made a dumb decision, blah, blah, blah. And then Aaron Beasley says, hold my beer. I'm going to get us in this thing where I've allegedly tortured a cat. It's mind-blowing. So Brent's right. It's one thing after another. Brent's heard me complain and moan like all offseason about the fact that Tennessee can never just fire a coach and move on to the next. Look at the last 2. You fire Butch, the Schiano fiasco, all the way through all that stuff with Curry. Curry gets out, Phillips in, he's got his search. Then Jeremy has to come in, he hires a whole staff. Then the exit of Pruitt and Phillip all together at once. Then they got to hire an AD. But never anything can be simple. You just can't say, hey, you're fired. Okay, we're going to hire this guy. It's never that easy here, ever.
Well, it's amazing when you go through that list. It's incredible, the laundry list of things. Let's talk about someone who has impressed, an actual positive story with Tennessee football. and that's Jabari Smalls. I know last week, guys, and Austin, I think you were talking about this. The package deal that goes right, where you get one player in because he's a buddy or a high school teammate of another player, and they turn out maybe to be the better player. Jabari Smalls seems to be working out right now, coming out of the city of Memphis. How much has he impressed this coaching staff? And Austin, we'll start with you.
Oh, I think he's impressed them a ton. I mean, they really just like him. Now, there were members of last year's coaching staff that were pushing to get Jabari more and more playing time. I mean, he's the guy that just is a worker, puts his head down, he goes to work. He's not really a trash talker or any of that. I mean, and I think he thrives on being the underdog. He was the underdog in high school, made it all the way to a Mr. Football finalist, an award won by his best friend and teammate, Omari Thomas. Then, he's committed to Ole Miss, then flips to Tennessee, just basically because, Big O's coming here and Tennessee wanted both at the end. They didn't want him to begin with. And they went and made the decision late in the game because David Johnson did a phenomenal job, Brent, of keeping Jabari warm in the recruiting process. He didn't neglect him. He called him, and he called him. Even when Tennessee and Jeremy Pruitt didn't want Jabari, then when Tennessee decided to go for him, it wasn't like you come out of nowhere. You'd always kind of been there. And I really credit David Johnson for that. I mean, he did a really good job with him. And the kid just, I think, thrives on being kind of an afterthought. And right now, he's not an afterthought. He is the man in that running back room, the man with the most experience, even if it's very little, and the guy that continues to impress the coaching staff.
Well, and it reminds me a little bit, Paul, of the NFL world. I mean, how many guys are running? Look, I know Derrick Henry's, the cat's meow, and he's a high draft pick. But how many people around the NFL are playing with 4th, 5th, 6th round draft picks, that all of a sudden everybody goes, well, who is this guy? All right. And that's kind of the way running backs are. You can find running backs that aren't 5 stars who are good players, 3-star guys, just like you can find one late in the draft who's a really good player. And that's kind of what I equate Jabari Small to coming out of high school. Is kind of just a late round pick in the NFL who's much better than anybody thought because he's got a great feel for the game, good vision, good footwork, goes to work every day, and loves to play. And he's going to come out of spring as the number 1 tailback, no question. He has taken where Eric Gray left, and he has run with this opportunity, and he's having an unbelievable spring. People are saying it publicly. People are saying it behind the scenes as well. They love this kid. They love how he fits into this system.
We love this hour. This is our 1 hour that is video and podcast only per week, the Volquest Power Hour. And we love that because we can go for 27 minutes straight before we take our first break of the hour. Brent and Austin make the rules. We don't. And when they say take a break, we will. But when we come back, we will discuss Hendon Hooker and the impression that he's making on this Tennessee coaching staff. That's the one that matters. And whether or not he's in the position to run the tempo of offense that Josh Heupel's going to require. And can Heupel even run the tempo that he wants to run right now? That's next on the Tennessee Power Hour. Brent Hubbs and Austin Price. Volquest.com is the website. And we welcome you to follow them on Twitter. Of course, Austin is at Austin Priceless. Brent is at Brent_Hubbs. But we're still waiting on him to tweet something from the account to make it official. So hopefully, maybe Brent gets more active there. If not, just follow Volquest straight on Twitter. Austin, curious, would you pay double or triple to be in attendance at Augusta this year because of the limited tickets that are available?
No, I would have paid a mint to be at the one in the fall if just period. I mean, whether they had fans or not, I would have that just because I think it's such a unique thing. But no, I'd love to be there, but at the same time, I wouldn't pay double or triple.
I would.
I thought Volquest was doing a little bit better than that, but we're doing what we can, boys.
Got to get those subscriptions up. Let's get those subscriptions up.
Hutton, you're wearing a Masters shirt today.
Yes.
That is not a part of the Austin Price collection. That's one of the few Masters shirts I've ever seen that Austin doesn't own. It's probably not the right name brand.
Not Peter Millar. It's not Peter
case
Millar.
point, right? So Austin's gotten to the point where Augusta's I don't want to say beneath him, but he's done Augusta. It's kind of like,
He's on the St. Andrews.
Since we're doing this on Zoom, I could share the screen and y'all could watch me hit my shot on 12 from 7 years ago.
It's only been on Twitter 4 times this week, Austin.
Hey, listen,
very jealous,
we've got easy access.
We'll never apologize for rubbing that in the face of everyone I know that I got to play that 7 years ago. We'll never apologize. It's a tradition unlike any other.
And you should never apologize for that. I don't know if Brent's ever heard this story, but it will not surprise Brent that Austin took offense to this on the hollow grounds of Augusta National Golf Club. And I thought it was hilarious. So yesterday I'm driving home listening to a radio broadcast. And it may have been on TV, I can't remember which if I got home. But a guy was describing how he was walking the course during a practice round and checking the undulation of the greens. And he had a peach with him, and he had the pit of the peach, and he didn't know where to put it. Right? He felt terrible throwing it on the ground, and it reminded me
in nature.
It reminded me of Paul pouring out his ice.
The ice is far more innocent.
Pouring ice onto the grass at Augusta,
and then saying,
and Austin looking at Paul like he just littered.
No, well, I mean, to my credit,
disgusted.
I don't know if it's to
just
my
disgusted.
credit. I wasn't reacting to Austin. I threw the ice on the ground, and then I looked up at these two guys and at Austin, and I said, am I allowed to do that? Because I was being completely respectful of the grounds, and I think even melting the ice is an eyesore at Augusta. And it would be gone in 5 minutes, but I could understand the peach dilemma. I mean, there's nowhere on earth I would hesitate to throw a peach pit. I don't eat peaches. But a peach pit in nature is no offense anywhere. And at Augusta, I can imagine somebody coming up behind you to sweep it up and admonish you.
To episode 1 of season 3 or 4 of House of Cards when Frank Underwood, Kevin Spacey's character, opens up and he's peeing on his dad's grave. Like, that's basically what you did. Like, you just don't do it.
All right, listen, I want you guys to speculate because I know there's no information out there as to what the spring game at the University of Tennessee will look like in terms of fans. If you had to guess, how many people are going to be allowed in there, and how does ticket distribution work?
Administer those, and they're going to obviously have COVID protocol. I will say this: I don't think it will be. It's obviously not going to be 100,000. I don't know what the number is going to be. I don't think they're going to run out of tickets. I think there'll be enough available attendance that pretty much anybody that wants to go to the game is going to be allowed into the game. Because I don't. So
you're saying 100,000 people don't want to go?
No. I'm saying 100,000 people do not want to come to a spring game. That's exactly what I'm saying, and that's not a knock. I don't think anybody's selling out their spring games. I mean, that's just look, they're all on TV now. Everybody knows that you might see a little bit for a half a quarter, and then it becomes, the walk-on kid from somewhere that you're never going to see again, who's going to be the MVP of the spring game, and that's kind of where that's going to go. So I don't think there's going to be – I think the supply will equate and handle the demand is what I'm saying. I don't know what the number will be, but I don't think anybody's going to announce a hard sellout at this point.
Brent Hubbs and Austin Price with us. Austin, based on what you're hearing, and Hubbs chime in here, how has Hendon Hooker looked to this point? What were the first impressions of the scrimmage that you've heard about from the transfer?
He was the most consistent quarterback yesterday. Harrison Bailey did start the scrimmage. Hendon Hooker, I think Brent repped more than anybody else, and a lot of that was the fact that he'd kind of earned it with his play over the course of the scrimmage. He was very efficient yesterday, running the offense and being able to go with the tempo that Josh Heupel likes. I think part of that's just the experience. I mean, he's played a lot of football, and I think that helps him more so than the other two.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that is, trying to seize the opportunity. I don't think he's run and hid with the job or anything like that. But of all the guys, I think he's been the most consistent this spring in terms of accuracy and managing the offense and the tempo, getting people lined up. Now, obviously, they had some mechanical issues yesterday with the false starts, some of that early. But I think it's a situation where he's probably been the most competent in terms of managing the pace of the offense, closer to what Josh Heupel wants. I'm not sure to this point they've gone as fast as Josh Heupel wants. I don't think they're at that point in terms of being able to manage this offense that way. They're getting closer, but I don't think they're at the pace that he really wants to play at.
Brent, we'll go back to you and start with you on this one. How is Josh Heupel in front of this team? We've seen tidbits of videos the university's released with him addressing his team, but just from a personality standpoint, what's he like when addressing his team? Is there a variance of personality on this staff, or is it a lot of guys who are very similar to Josh Heupel in terms of personality?
Well, I think there's a variance. I mean, I think, everybody's personality is a bit different. I think Willie Martinez's personality and Rodney Garner's personality is probably different because of their SEC experience. You got a couple other guys who have Power 5 experiences that are probably a little bit different than other people. We know Coach Eckler we've seen him on Twitter. He's running hot most of the day. That's kind of the tempo he's at. I think the big thing with Josh Heupel, and I think Josh Heupel has conveyed this to his staff, and his staff is conveying this to this football team. I think Josh Heupel feels like this team needs a shot in the arm and confidence. They need a shot in the arm and belief. They need to feel like they're capable and good enough to be successful. And I think that's been Austin, his message from the get-go has been team building and give them some things where that they have some positive things to build off of to gain some confidence coming out of the spring. I think it's been a big emphasis for this staff.
Guys, what has
I equate it like with my kids. Like if I make my kids shoot on the 10-foot goal, in the long run, it's going to be best for them. But, if I lower the goal down to 7 feet where they can actually make it, I think that they're able to have a lot more confidence. So I think that right now it's about kind of lowering the expectations a fraction to give these guys some confidence going forward. I mean, the offense has made the most plays, and Brent said this earlier with you guys. That's the best thing that can happen for Tennessee this spring. The offense continued to excel. You kind of know what the defense is, but you need this offense to get some confidence, to figure out the quarterback position, to see some of these young pieces kind of grow up and improve and get more polished. So, yeah, I mean, I think, what Josh Heupel is trying to do is very much instill confidence. You've seen that with the assistant coaches. I think they're all in uniform message that, it's about building up. And then once they build them up, then they'll figure out, okay, now let's shape them and mold them into what we need.
So he's lowering the rims for UT.
So, Austin, I'm coming back to you on this one. Recruiting right now. I know Vols fans are looking for any bit of news they can find in terms of targets and who's close to doing what. Are there a few guys that you feel pretty confident or close to making a decision that Tennessee's the closest to getting to commit, or is it still a big mystery right now?
Well, I mean, the first ones that are slated to decide are the Wade twins, Destin and Keaton Wade. They're going to do something next Friday. They'll visit Kentucky later today and then tomorrow, and then they'll come back to Nashville and then start working towards a decision. It's Tennessee and Kentucky. That's the top two teams. I think it's still very much up in the air. I don't think the kids have decided. I think at one point Tennessee had a lot of the momentum. Right now, Kentucky seems to kind of have some momentum, but I don't think that it's done by any stretch of the imagination. And I think a lot of it is just simply, where does the family, where does Destin feel like, this Tennessee program really wants him at? Are they going to give him a legit shot at quarterback? Because that's what he wants. He wants a legit shot at quarterback. There have been a lot of kids that have come here or gone elsewhere that wanted a legit shot at a position. Some of them have proved they can play it. How many people, when Derrick Henry came out of high school, were telling Derrick Henry, you can't play running back at Alabama. Nick Saban's going to move you to linebacker. You look just like Dante Hightower or one of those typical Alabama linebackers. All he's done is go win the Heisman Trophy and rush for 2,000 yards in the NFL and so on and so forth. So, to me, it's up to Destin wherever he goes, and of course Keaton as well, to prove they can play a certain position. So those are the first two. I think Elijah Herring at Riverdale, is fairly close and makes a lot of sense. Giovanni Davis, I'm not sure he's super close, but I think Tennessee's in a really good spot there. I think Tennessee's really surged for a guy like Cam Miller. That's a Tennessee-Alabama battle, and he's going to camp at Alabama in June, and we'll see what happens there. But that's kind of where things are right now. I mean, not a ton of traction, but a little bit. And let's face it, if they can find a way to turn the tide and land the Wades next Friday, then I think things start to fall in place a lot more than if they don't.
Brent, do you buy the Josh Palmer pre-draft hype that's happening right now for the former Tennessee wideout?
I think Josh Palmer, and I've had this conversation with some NFL folks, I do think he's going to be an NFL wide receiver. I don't believe the mock drafts that have him as the first Vol taken ahead of Trey Smith. I think Josh Palmer's got a nice skill set. I think the thing that's helping Josh Palmer more than anything right now is Marquez Callaway. And the year he had last year with the Saints as an undrafted free agent, there's a lot of people going, wait a minute, maybe this guy's a good receiver, a better receiver than anybody thinks. The problem is nobody could get him the football at Tennessee because of how bad the quarterback play was. So what does he look like when he's got good quarterback play around him, when the ball's on time and those types of things? He's a good athlete, smart football player, good route runner. But I don't think ultimately I think Trey Smith will get drafted ahead of him, but I do think Josh Palmer has a really great chance of making a 53-man roster, and I'm not surprised he's generated some buzz.
Here's the thing for Palmer for me, and I'm going to go the opposite of Brent, is the one thing Callaway brought that Palmer don't is a toughness on special teams. He didn't play special teams.
It's a great point.
And that's the thing about Callaway, and is he earned his spot as a special teams guy, and then when they had a couple of injuries, he kind of came in, had that one game where he had like 6 or 7 catches or whatever it was from Drew Brees. If Palmer can latch on as a 1, 2, or 3, obviously he's not going to be a 1 or 2, but if he can latch on as the number 3, because normally that 4 and 5 guy, Paul, are they not special team guys? That's where I kind of am with this thing, is like if he can't get that kind of that number 3 spot, I'm not sure he can latch on as a 4 or 5 receiver because he don't play special teams.
While we're at it, what are you hearing about Bryce Thompson?
I think it all depends on, kind of if a team falls in love with him. If you put on his tape, he is a, 4th, 5th, or 5th, 6th, 7th round draft pick. But if you just look at his measurables and pro day stuff, I don't know if any of that just screams draft, in that range. But I think from a playmaking standpoint, he's that. And here's one thing you got to think about Bryce is he was really going to have a shoulder cleanup after the season, then decided to turn pro, signed with an agent. I'm not sure he's ever done that. And, and Paul, you can speak on this better than I can. How different was it this year when it comes to, the medical side of things with kids and pro days and the lack of, the NFL Combine?
I think they've kept it quiet. I think they've had guys with medical questions in bunches go to Indianapolis to meet with
a group of physicians.
A group of physicians, right? Not 32 physicians, but a representative group of physicians that then share information. So it sounds like Thompson would qualify as that if he came out with a shoulder question.
I think that he's got toughness, he's got grit. He's not afraid of contact necessarily. I think the question is, does he have enough of that explosiveness and to be able to line up and play man coverage against high quality guys in the NFL? So I think the big question for me that a lot of people are going to have with him is, does he move and does he run well enough?
Our scout friend Blake Bedingfield in the file he did for me had him at a 4.52. So, like you guys said, fourth at the top, probably fifth or beyond. And how does that time speed translate in people's eyes, or how did it translate to his play speed?
Brent Hubbs and Austin Price with us. Guys, as we wrap up, aside from he's just doing athletic director things, what has Danny White's focus been with Tennessee since making the hire and putting the football program in the hands of Josh Heupel? What has been going on? What has been the focus of that office?
That's the notion. I mean, and that's the thing. You look at the most hires he's made. They announced 2 more today, and it's all in the Tennessee fund. And his greatest reputation is being a fundraiser and being able to generate money. And he has gone out and he has assembled a staff in the Tennessee fund to try to generate more money. We reported this a couple of weeks ago. I think they're getting ready to announce a capital campaign, fundraising campaign, not for a specific facility, but just to try to grow their budget and want to increase their budget. And his first all-staff meeting that he had just a few weeks ago, finally having one, he told them, my focus at Tennessee, my focus here, my first year, 2 years at Tennessee, is to grow this budget. We got to get to $200 million in our budget. So we're going to be out soliciting, asking for money, an increased number of donors and donation. So his focus right now is on getting financially more sound at Tennessee. I think that's his, I don't want to say his sole focus, but that's clearly his biggest focus.
I know Austin's focus is about to be on Augusta National. Brent, I don't know how much you tune in during the day. I know Brent's coming to us live from his farm. So I'm sure he's about to go back outside and try to get some work in ahead of the weather that's headed towards East Tennessee.
Fence in. Got to keep the cattle in out there.
Hey, man. Put it.
I don't have 3 TVs going where I can watch every vantage point on the Masters like Austin does today, but that's okay. We'll get a little work done, but I will catch up. I watched a good bit of it yesterday, so the only thing that interests me about this tournament right now is the golf course. And I think that's a scary notion for golf. And I know that's not why we're on this power hour, but golf doesn't have enough personality right now to generate a lot of storylines. No offense to Justin Rose, but he's a robot who went low yesterday. Right?
You're not wrong. You're right. You're not wrong.
I mean, and Austin and I talked about this earlier. Phil Mickelson is old in his aviator shades. He's not gonna generate any buzz. That sport right now is lacking personality, which the ratings will be fine because it's Augusta and the Masters, and everybody knows that golf course. But overall, golf's got some issues because I don't think they have near enough personality in the game.
Austin, how difficult has this hour been for you to actually?
Oh, he's been watching.
I know he's been watching, but he's also been attentive to us, which has to be a struggle.
No, it's not at all. I mean, like I think I've looked at the leaderboard.
What's the leaderboard look like?
I think I've looked at the leaderboard twice just to check to see where the guys I've got in my little pool. As we raise money for LLS here in Knoxville to see where my guys are, but like I'm not. Charity. It's okay. I'm going to go downstairs. I've got it on the Apple TV on the Masters app. I've got watching featured group. Speed's now 3 under in 5th place. He's the one guy that can make.
Is he on the clock yet? Is he on the clock yet for taking
An hour.
4.5 minutes to figure out if he's going.
I can't wait till the OutKick 360 Masters. That's going to be so much fun, and we are going to have a bay there, and I'm hoping I can drag somebody off of the farm, and he will hit those weak little cuts.
I hope they have a high net on the left side because the ball's going to drift really hard that way.
That's why Weeping Cherry is going to be on the right side.
Is that a dog leg? Is that a dog leg? I mean, what do we got going on there, Austin? Is that going to be a dog leg for me?
The beauty,
Weeping Cherry
of Topgolf is that Weeping Cherry can hit the fade or the hook, and there's still a target over there. It's possible it could bounce into.
Accidental, yeah.
So you could still get points. It is like bowling for golf, where you can hit even if you hit one in the gutter, you still get some points if it's for the charity cause. So, and Austin, to play us out, I know you've got it on your phone or you're on your laptop.
Crank that puppy up.
A tradition unlike any other.
Do you know the words to it, though? Do you know the words?
I didn't know
it's
there
a song
were
that
words.
has words.
No, I didn't know there were words.
We need a heavy metal version of this.
It's phenomenal. You got to listen to the words.
There are lyrics to this song?
Don't sing, Austin, please. For the love of man, don't sing.
Please
okay?
sing.
Do it, Austin. Do it.
Who
Hold on.
wrote
You know
this
you want
song,
to.
Austin?
You know you want to.
Who wrote the song? That's the question, Austin. Who wrote the song? Who wrote the lyrics?
It's David Loggins.
Kenny's
fact,
brother.
You didn't know today.
Is it related to Kenny?
Absolutely.
Yeah, kid.
Oh.
And that the residuals
I mean, it
on
mentions
this.
all. The legions of Arnold's army and the Golden Bear's throne.
Well, don't speak the lyrics. Sing it. I mean,
Austin's trying his hardest to get us kicked off of YouTube right now with this.
dude, you two going at it at the end of this it really puts a bow
It delivers.
or
It
a
is a
bow
tradition
tie
unlike any
like
other.
some of these golfers.
Austin and
hour.
Brent for the Volquest Hour.
I'm really impressed with the Bubba Watson shirt that Hutton's wearing today. That looks like all you need is a pink driver because that looks like it comes out of the Bubba Watson collection.
He likes
Austin, does
Bubba.
that not
It
look
is.
like a Bubba Watson shirt?
It's below
to
Austin.
completely tied in, the 2 years that I got to cover the Masters, Bubba won it both times. So,
Wow. Just drop some more, Austin. I've played it. I've
Austin's
covered it
completely
twice.
down on this shirt, though. That's below you.
Let me tell you
I will
something.
say this.
He will never wear that shirt. Austin, he's not wearing that shirt. No chance.
One thing I've learned, though, is being in front of the camera has opened me up to more criticism of my wardrobe.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. All of us.
Than any other facet of media I've been on. At least when we're doing like the TV show on Sunday nights, I'm in a suit, and there's only so many versions of the tie I'll put on. But with the Masters shirt, I mean it's a neon green that's certainly not Masters green. And you know what? I love it. I'm not going to stop wearing this just because Austin Price wouldn't
Never
wear
stop.
That's
Never
right.
stop.
It
Hey,
works.
I
It works
like
for
it.
Hutton.
I like it. I'm a huge
Just
fan
not
of
for you.
bright colors. I'm a huge fan of bright colors. I had a pink Chattanooga Country Club shirt on at practice on
The
Tuesday.
tag in the back is not quality enough for him, all right?
But he's right. If it's not Peter Millar,
What a snob.
gotta get Millar.
If it's not
Well, I
Peter
mean-
Bauer.
In closing, we can't analyze Hubbs's wardrobe because he's got the camera so high that we can only kind of
Wardrobe
see.
is a T-shirt.
Well,
That's
see his
what
head.
it is.
Hey, here's what you need to know about me. It's 82 degrees outside. I'm in a long sleeve T-shirt with a collar that's way too stretched out, and I'm getting ready to go get on a lawnmower, and I'll mow in long sleeves today
Hey,
because
Paul.
I'm a little old frumpy man.
Well,
Paul,
protect
we don't-
yourself from
we
the
don't-
sun.
Paul, we don't even know if he has pants on. Don't ask him to tilt down.
No, I do got those. I got those on
There we
there.
go. That's good. That's a good look.
God, this has been a great finish.
Good look.
Oh, the Volquest Power Hour. Until now, pants optional.
Yes.
Here on the show, guys. Thank you as always.
Terrific.
We love this, and we will chat with you next week.
All right,
Sounds
sounds
good.
Thanks,
All
boys.
right. Austin Price and Brent Hubbs with the Volquest Power Hour.
A comedy moment there at
This
the
is
end of
great.
the segment. every
last
time.
5
I love it.
minutes
love
was
it.
fire.
So
right.
much personality with those guys.
Yeah.
We're
Who knew?
And you know what? We're not leaving. We're staying right here through the end of the show. Guys, who are we rooting for this weekend? Is it Spieth? Is it someone else atop the leaderboard that's not Justin Rose? Who are we pulling for?
It's definitely not Justin Rose. It's Spieth for me. That's the no-brainer. I think that Brent Hubbs hits on something. It doesn't hurt the Masters because it's the Masters, but the lack of personality without Tiger in the field is something that we've discussed before that golf's going to have to deal with. But for me, it is Jordan Spieth the whole way.
I would like to see Jordan Spieth win. It'd be nice to see him back towards the top. I mentioned earlier this week, once upon a time, when we were talking about people we'd pay big bucks to go see play. He was your choice, and at that stage, he was a great choice, and he's been an absentee since then. My pocketbook would like to see Cam Smith or Tony Finau.
Mine would like to see Colin Morikawa, who I think at last check was 1 under.
Our American love goes out the window when it comes to our bets.
No, well, Morikawa is American.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Matsuyama. Morikawa is American.
Yeah.
Won the PGA Championship last year.
Yeah, my bad.
And then for me, Justin Thomas. I want to see Justin Thomas perform. He should be top 15-ish right now. And forgive me for not knowing if he's teed off yet, but we're going to watch him whenever I get home to see how things go there. I want a first-time champion. I want someone that's been close, that we keep waiting on, that has a chance to put the green jacket on.
And look, the
Sunday.
number one thing, I'm sure you're with me on this, is a back nine that's competitive, super competitive.
The second 9.
Sorry, I don't abide by their rules. I call them fans.
It's also patrons, Paul. Let's get it correct.
Also. I want more than 2 players in it, more than one group in it. Sunday,
We're getting that
late
today.
afternoon.
The winner in November was it 20 under that won the tournament?
Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, but he won at 20 under.
19,
Yeah,
19 yeah, that's not happening this year.
No.
That's not happening in April.
Hopefully
Coming back down to the mix. That's what Justin Rose
I don't
is
care
on
what
today.
the score is.
There we
I just
go.
want a bunch of people at the score.
So Justin Rose, as we go into the weekend for us, he is 1 over for today's round, which means he's 1 up on Mark Leishman, who's made a nice little run. He's 5 under
Today.
From
Even.
Started the day even, yeah.
Hey,
So
and
he's
look
got
who's tied for third there, Tony.
Tony Finau, he's now at 6 under. Spieth is there. Hideki Matsuyama, Brian Harmon, Cameron Champ, and much more. Webb Simpson. Enjoy the Masters.
Tony Finau 6 under for the day.
I'll take
Impressive.
it. I accept.
Yeah.
That's right. We are back at it on Monday. Enjoy the weekend.
Yes.
A lot to recap when we rejoin you Monday at noon Eastern, 11 Central. Until then, hit the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, interact with us on Twitter at OutKick 360. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. 2 homework assignments this weekend. Don't block the box. Do lock the locks.